Good evening.
Everywhere I go on this island, it seems to me I find degeneracy.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes. See, it's a lot scarier when there's no motive, Sid.
We have a bargain.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
Do you feel the pain? Oh, it's the pain I can assure you will be exquisite.
Watch a few movies, take a few notes.
His entire work consists of violence, all the time, obsessed with the issue of violence. Mayhem, gouging out of eyes, autopsies on the stage.
Come. It is time to keep your appointment.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for turning up for Double Feature Horror Show, episode 174. Unremarkable number, but hopefully a remarkable show. Before we get any further, I'll just do a quick little note, as well as thanks to everyone catching live, and thank you to all your wonderful people watching on the replay, who I don't think I've said anything to for about 2 months now. Hi, guys. You're fantastic. A little note of sadness this week. It needs saying. We've had a bit of a loss. A certain Mr. David Lynch has passed, and that news just came a little bit before we started the show. So, just want to say, R.I.P. David Lynch. Film's always controversial, right down the middle in pretty much any circle, including on this show. However, those here tonight absolutely, I think we all loved it. I know I loved it. I've sung the praises greatly of his movies, especially Lost Highway, and which I think doesn't get enough attention, and Mulholland Drive, just absolutely wonderful stuff. So yeah, R.I.P. Mr. Lynch. A very impactful life on cinema, and someone whose biography I think I now will rush to finish. That's moving straight up the reading list. Anyway, with that said, and F's in the chat, very welcome. Few people, few new faces around tonight. Good to see you. If it's your first time, do say hi in chat. It's always welcome. And I'll give us a quick overview here for what we're doing here tonight, if I can find where on earth my stuff is. Gosh darn it. This happens every single time. You're going to have David Lynch for quite a while because I can't find. There we go. Talk about what we're doing tonight. So as we usually do, we're going to be covering a short topic, and then we're going to be covering an unusually current movie. Very weird for us to do something this up to date, but I found this one quite interesting, and I thought we could have quite a good discussion about it. So this is Heretic from last year, featuring a villainous turn from Hugh Grant. Something really weird about this guy is, he's popping up everywhere. He's in that big Dungeons and Dragons movie. It is weird to think that he's getting to do this basically all because of Paddington, right?
All because of Paddington?
Yeah, it's Paddington wave. Paddington, massive success. Hugh Grant was in it.
Right.
And suddenly Hollywood's like, oh, I remember that guy. Yeah.
Paddington wave. Hang on. Are you referring to Paddington Bear?
Yeah, of course. He's riding the Paddington wave.
Okay.
He's the Peruvian hotshot. Suddenly his phone's blowing up.
I was going to say, I haven't actually seen any of the Paddington movies, but I kind of felt like he wouldn't need to ride the coattails of Paddington for that.
You know what Hollywood's like. They forget about you.
It's true.
You need to build up a bit of heat, don't you?
It's kind of like Josh Hartnett, actually.
True.
He's made a bit of a resurgence. There's that new action film with him in it. There was a clip that came out the other day on the Twitter sphere. It's quite good.
Yeah. You could, if you Google Josh Hartnett trap, you now get his M. Night Shyamalan movie and not some really dodgy AI art.
Yeah, I know you have to add Rule 34 to that now.
Yeah, exactly. I've saved them all anyway, so it's okay. Yeah, he is having you go through these periods where I think you're out of favor, but Hugh Grant, obviously, back in now. He's back. Anyway, oh, sorry, go ahead, mate.
Oh, no, I was going to say, and it's quite different to what like he was known for, like back in the 90s, early 2000s. It was kind of like what's it called, The Gentleman, because he was in that, wasn't he? And it was a very very different.
I didn't see the movie of it.
No, so he's in the film, and obviously it's such a different role that he would normally be sort of typecast for, and this was another like really good example of it, and it really actually demonstrates his acting range, if anything. Because spoiler alert, chat, bloody loved this film, thought it was brilliant. Hugh Grant for me stole the show.
Yeah, he was more known for romantic comedies, and he's kind of spread his wings now that he's come back.
Yeah, and also slightly lesser known for unfortunate run-ins with LA hookers.
Yeah, well, hey,
I thought that had a happy ending. What do you mean, unfortunate?
Wow.
What?
It wasn't.
Maybe
it had a happy ending at first until the cops caught up with him. But
ah, dear. Yeah. He did try and break out of that sort of Richard Curtis wave stuff where he was. Sorry, I'm calling everything a wave now. Where he was like sort of floppy haired and bumbling and harmless. And then they, I remember he was in one Robin Cook medical thriller, which he seemed spectacularly miscast in. The one thing that sticks in my mind is he has this fight scene with, how there's always like a massive muscly dude. He had to have a fight scene taking on
Coma.
Yeah, I think that was it. Yeah. It was a Robin Cook medical thriller, and him just trying to, Hugh Grant trying to beat up someone the size of Andre the Giant. Like it's not convincing. It's dear. But anyway, I'll move us on because I think not the.
Oh, 9 months.
Let's not forget the lair of the white worm. He wasn't, was he? Oh dear. Still need to look at that. Sort of attempt to get back into Hammer or do Hammer differently. Anyway,
Lair of the White Worm is a classic. Granted, it's a B movie, but it is a classic.
We like our B movies. We love it. Anyway, folks, we'll just say very quickly before we get into it, our topic will be discussing Safe-Edgy, which may or may not have something to do with my major criticism of this film that I will be shouted down for. But before we get into that, just very quickly, YouTube, you know how it works. Supporting the channel is very welcome, especially via Super Chats, but above all, memberships. If you join the channel as a member, which you can do for, I think, like £2 on Subscribestar, you get access to a whole, very worth your time. That's what I prefer to do, because if you join as a member, I get to give something back to you. You'll also get to vote on the arc we cover in each month. And I believe I am asking the next month's poll imminently. Is it going to be Lovecraft 3? Are we doing Lovecraft Part 3? I don't know. I've got some tempting proposals for you, and I'll see which one you vote for, if you remember. I've also got my wonderful guests here, whose links are in the description. Murgoot, would you just like to say a quick word about yourself?
Hey guys, I'm back. You can find me on X at Murgoot. They currently have me shadow banned, so you have to type it all the way out. But don't know what I did to piss off Elon's algorithm, but post a little bit of everything. Back to concentrating on geopolitics, and I've been paying attention to tabletop gaming a little bit more. So
yeah, it's a smorgasbord. And TCG, yourself?
Yeah, I'm a former true crime content creator. I might as well call myself that, considering I haven't done anything for over a year now. But yeah, you can just, if you want to look at true crime stories, you can go to my channel and you can find it all there. Yeah, that's really all I've got to say for now.
All right, lovely stuff. All right, well, we'll get into it, and I will kick us off with a topic section and just ask folks, do you recognize this? Is this fair? Have you seen this?
Safe-Edgy starter pack.
Oof. I realize this is like Reddit tier stuff, and actually I've collected a few images of Safe-Edgy stuff from Reddit. I'm very sorry to say. I feel somewhat guilty about doing it, but I did. Have you recognized this? Have you been out and about seeing stuff that is Safe-Edgy? Do you think this is fair? Have you seen this? Has this rocked up your viewing? How about this? A little bit of this? Yeah. Oof. Yes. There are comedians about, and they are not afraid to reference reefer. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the edgiest thing they deal with sexy time is either LGBT or, in the case of heterosexual, side boob. And that's about the most they do.
The side boob, the edgy side boob.
Murgoot wants full frontal comedy.
Hey, I'm going to be talking about the 70s and 80s, and early 90s.
Yeah, I think we've all seen this phenomenon, and I think there's a few ways we could get into this. This exists. You may like it. It's fine. Why do we even have a problem with it? Can't we just enjoy things? Well, no. This is the internet. Stop having fun, gosh darn it. I wanted to talk about this since I saw this kind of. This is the thing that annoyed me. Hopefully,
What the hell is that?
Oh, I can zoom in if you'd like.
No, I can read it.
No,
I really don't want you to zoom in. No, thank you.
No, are you sure?
Yeah, positive. Don't zoom in.
Sure. Okay.
Jesus Christ, no. Now I can read his pants.
All right. Well, this. Oh, Tim W. You've got it. Man. You've got it. Yes.
Doodah.
Folks, if you've got your own fake edgy, safe edgy classics, do post them. It's been turned up, and I guess.
Well, sorry to interrupt, but you say that, but the 2 World Wars, 1 World Cup thing isn't considered safe edgy anymore.
Oh, is it not?
No. It's like the old. There's another one about there being a certain number of German bombers in the air and the RAF from England shooting them down. That's not allowed anymore. You can't sing that at Wembley. Also, you get very, very frowned upon now as a Man United fan if you take. I don't know for the Americans in the audience, but Band Aid in 1984 or Live Aid, Band Aid, whichever. Do they know it's Christmas time? Well. No. You take the context of that because it was about it was about the starving Africans. You take the Africans out of it, and you put the Scousers in. And instead of saying "feed the world," you say "feed the Scousers." Let them know it's Christmas time. That is now considered too taboo now because apparently it mocks the poor. And yeah. I noticed over Christmas one particular Man United channel that I follow was getting a bit of stick from Liverpool YouTubers because he was quite openly singing that song. Fortunately, this guy has an FU mentality. But yeah, apparently now sort of like funny football chants now are considered, in some cases, bannable offences from stadiums altogether.
Yeah. See, that's part of it is your good bit of lively fun, your genuine fun that can get a bit spicy. It can go into places. When you see it clamped down on, you realise, oh, hang on, this edgy boy, this irreverence. It's a little bit reverent, actually. It doesn't just have fun. It's not just taking some pot shots and here for a laugh. It's got a few sore spots where it can, what's the phrase? It can dish it out, but it can't take it.
Exactly.
I saw this. This was what kicks this off, kind of, and our entry point is I saw this raunchy sex comedy starring Jennifer Lawrence, very peculiar casting, I'm going to say, advertised to me ages ago with the edgy new comedy. I'm like, hang on. I saw a guy penetrate an apple pie in 1999.
Yeah.
How edgy are you?
In the early 80s, I saw a guy looking through a peephole into a high school shower and then shove his dick through it and get it grabbed by the gym coach.
Yeah, the old monkeys. What I'm saying is like this isn't edgy, boys. Like this is almost, hang on, the joke is the woman likes to be sexed. What? Oh my gosh, she don't even care. Whew. Her don't take your grandma to this. She'll be
who's she playing? Bonnie Blue?
What?
Don't
this reference is lost on me. I'm not Googling that. That doesn't sound good.
Maybe have a look at Paul Joseph Watson's one of his most recent videos.
Oh, no. I saw this. How about this one? Oh my!
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
Weed Lamau.
Weed Lamau. Hey, Christians! Ooh, get ready for a ribbon. It's this kind of thing where you realize, that I want to be super, super edgy. It's like, actually, the targets are pretty darn safe, actually. Like, this isn't getting cancelled. This isn't getting dragged out. This is being promoted by major studios. It's like, you aren't that edgy here. Having a dig at Christianity is about as safe as you can get. And I'll throw in another one that really stood out to me. This might be a bit lost on Americans. Anyone seen this one? The old Taskmaster?
I never really watched it. But I can tell Frankie Boyle on the far left. Convenient coincidence? I think not.
All right. Well, this is series 15. I got a bit hooked on Taskmaster. It's a pretty darn funny British series. It's irreverent. It's kind of edgy. It's like, oh, I like this. This is fun. Greg Davies and his sidekick, whose name Alex Horn. Crikey, they only say his name about 20 times an episode. Little Alex Horn, the sidekick. They have fun banter. They don't even care. They do a little bit of gay chicken, and then they gay off with each other because it's 2024 and we've seen gay chicken a million times. Cool. That was kind of a funny twist. They come in at the start, and it's different celebrities each time. Frank Skinner is on season 1. It's great fun mocking him for being old. They have Ramesh Ranganathan on, who's an Asian lad, if you didn't guess, who is vegan. And they're having a great bit of fun mocking him for being vegan. Lovely stuff, right? Made him play golf with eggs. Hilarious. All right. And this gets popular. And you notice when you get popular, if you didn't start with a message, you get the treatment, just so you're acceptable for a modern audience, a mass audience. And I watched a heck of a lot of Taskmaster. I binged it, and I just started noticing a few other things come in. Tim Vine, Christian comedian, obviously having loads of fun with him. Okay. And then I just noticed Joe Brand comes on and is a bit big on the old feminism. Absolutely fine. They don't say a word. I was like, oh, interesting. Not going for any jokes about that. A lot of the jokes that are made in the show, especially in the intros, they're about Alex Horn holding unpopular opinions. And those opinions are always kind of right-wing coded, as if that's absolutely impossible. And then you just start to notice, this irreverent series where, they'll take the mick out of absolutely everyone for anything. Well, it turns out they don't. Turns out they've got some pretty hard lines. And I'm taking a long time to say this. Season 15, you got someone on the right there. This, hang on. This Canadian on the right goes by the name of Mae Martin. And Mae Martin comes on And suddenly you find out that the super irreverent show that will take the mick out of absolutely anyone for anything, turns out they are big non-binary respecters. The show that absolutely ripped into everyone over the tiniest detail, it's almost like, they never mention anything about it. You think that's kind of a remarkable thing, having a Canadian non-binary person on. You'd think there'd be quite a few things you could have a good-natured joke about. That doesn't even have to be anything attacking anyone's personal choices, but just something that you'd note as peculiar and you would throw in for comedy the way you would pretty much any other characteristic of someone. But weirdly enough, no. It's just totally accepted. And it's almost like they had a big edict from their boss saying, don't go near this. Don't touch this. And you just sort of think, I don't know. When you're having a go, really digging into things I care about, it's kind of fine. I can take that. But when you realize, if you think everyone's going to get the mick taken out of them, when you see those, those borders on the edginess are there, suddenly, it kind of kills the comedy a bit. You realize that irreverent profile is a bit of a sham when the jokes just only go one way. I've talked for ages on that. Sorry. But
TR, with Trudeau going away, and as long as Carney doesn't get in, Canada may revert to somewhat normal. It's still Canada after all, but
maybe. Safe-Edgy. I tried Greg Davies' other show, Man Down. I'm afraid I could not get through a single episode. I tried. I liked him in Taskmaster. I think he's very funny in it, but I couldn't get through a single episode of his sitcom.
Adam loves horror for $2. Hey, Taskmaster, did you remember to shill?
I did. I actually shilled this week, Adam loves horror, but thank you for reminding and thank you for sending in $2. Very much appreciated. And also as well, shilling, let's also remember the old likes are appreciated, comments below of your favorite Safe-Edgy stereotypes. Let's go for that. So this is a thing. This is a notable thing. I'm an edgy boy. Everything's a safe target. I'm going to go for whatever. But, the boundaries are there. The boundaries. Only mock socially acceptable subjects in particular. And we had another issue of this recently. Because I kind of thought this actually goes back a bit. This is a long-standing problem, the old Safe-Edgy, and I think I kind of got to the root of it. Either of you found some Private Eye? Aware of Private Eye?
I've heard of it, and I've read a couple of their tweets, but other than that, not really.
From what I've seen, they seem like an even more like milquetoast version of Have I Got News for You?
Well, Have I Got News for You is the perfect comparison. It's actually Ian Hislop is the editor of Private Eye, and as well also goes on Have I Got News for You. We could throw Have I Got News for You in as well. For American audiences, that is a weekly satire show that's been going for about 400 years. And it's one of those ones that, again, it'll bring celebrities on. It'll especially weirdly bring politicians on. And everyone has a good bit of fun. It's all just a good laugh. But again, you just notice where the targets are. So in this case, Private Eye in a week where the grooming gangs, and I'm sorry to talk about them 2 weeks in a row, folks, much lighter, much quicker reference this time. In this case, when the grooming gangs are in the news, Private Eye decides the real angle on this is that they need to attack Musk and Farage. Now, that's a weird angle to take.
Yeah, it's a weird. It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like, hang on, you are the, you're the I'll investigate everything. Private Eye is a magazine that made itself famous, doing deep dives into pretty much everything. I used to respect them quite a lot. I subscribed for years. I unsubscribed in 2020, and I unsubscribed because during the BLM protests, I think we all remember the coverage back then.
Oh my God.
What channels we watched were uncovering, right? We know all the deets were out there straight away, right? We knew all the absurdities.
Yeah, you can't see your dying grandparents, but you can go out and mass protest because apparently that's safe to do.
Yeah,
you can burn down a Wendy's and chant and run around the rosy around the campfire that was a fast food restaurant.
Yeah, you can hand $80 million to a group run by trained Marxists. How will that go? Well, Private Eye, you'd have thought, would have a bit of fun with this. You'd have thought there's quite a lot of hypocrisy that they would love to take a poke at. This is the magazine that absolutely loves to say MP voted against this, and yet 5 years ago they said this. Hypocrite. They'll do that, but they can't say, Black Lives Matter group decides to protest by killing about 20 black people.
Yeah.
You'd have thought they'd have gone for it, but Private Eye weirdly kept absolutely shut on it. And it just made me realize that this thing goes way back. And I think the root of Safe-Edgy is just like the modern form of it. What really, I'm just going to keep this comment up because I absolutely love it. Again, I used to like him, but once you see through it, once you see like he's a massive Remainer as well, wherever you are on that, the guy who's like, it's settled is suddenly flipped to, no, we will endlessly campaign against Brexit after spending 20 years attacking the European Union. It's like, he really got radicalized on that. When you see, once again, the irreverent guys, we take an edgy satirical approach, you see, they really, really have their own stance. They're not outside looking in. Sorry. I guess what I'm trying to get to is Safe-Edgy is the latest formulation of a long-running problem, which is the left, or let's just say progressive forces really like to think of themselves as the outsiders fighting for change, and really hate it when they actually are in control. That's an uncomfortable position, because then you kind of have to own things. And that's why you get, Private Eye, have I got news for you? Really uncomfortable when it's not, say, the Tories in power. They're great targets. You can really go in on them, but they can't really say attack current Labour government for anything because they basically want it. They will attack the more conservative, more traditional groups for being traditional and conservative. But they will, when they go for, say, the progressive groups, it tends to be for not living up to progressivism. And that is the conflict there.
I miss the days of meatballs and Porkies and Once Bitten. I miss more recently, late 90s, early 2000s, up, say, season 8 of South Park or South Park Bigger, Longer, Uncut. I miss American Pie. I miss stuff like that just cuts the boundaries, makes you laugh, and just hammers everybody.
Yeah, those actually did. Those went for it. I mean, they still have their own boundaries. They absolutely have their own boundaries, but it was different.
Well, they took it as far as a rated R rating would take them.
Yeah. Whereas this stuff is the people in power trying to pretend they are not in power, trying to feign they're on the outside, trying to feign that they are fighting the power. And it's just not convincing. I think like the fakery of it is what gets me.
It's boring. It's almost not worthy of being mocked because it's so mundane.
Yeah. Maybe the easiest way to say it, and we'll come back to that guy's nice bulge here for you, TCG, just to bring it back to a really clear example.
Cheers.
No worries. This movie has got a lot of sex and swearing in it. We kind of passed nearly every frontier you can in sex and swearing. That's absolutely allowed, right? But as we know from our deep studies of the British Board of Film Classification rating systems, but if you look at those rating guidelines, which I'm sure you all do regularly, there's one thing you'll note you're actually not allowed to do. They have a specific section on discrimination. If you have anything that they conceive that's considered discriminatory by today's standard, that's basically not allowed in any kids movie. You can only have, say, discriminatory language if it's shown explicitly to be countered, explicitly considered to be wrong. Basically, it comes from a bully who gets his ass beaten, that sort of thing. If you can have a more explicit discussion of it in, say, something 15 or related, but the movie still has to come down on the side of whatever the current mainstream opinion is, or rather the current official regime opinion is. That is all you're allowed to do. The actual edgy stuff is what is literally not allowed to be in our entertainment. And that's why those older movies might have joking, sort of joshing around banter, and they'd throw around a word or two that were in very common parlance at the time. And it gets clipped out these days. Anyway, that is taking... Yeah,
I was going to say, I mean, a lot of the things that you don't see are likely down to, what regulators are saying that you can and can't do. I was going to say, especially in this country, not only do you have bodies like Ofcom, which, do have a very specific leaning when it comes to certain views and, when it comes to certain viewpoints and opinions. But then you've also got literal bloody hate speech laws and things like that. And if you're, you only have to be perceived to say the wrong thing for potential criminal charges to come down. I remember covering this on my Sadiq Khan roast.
I thought I'd get this up to help your argument, TCG. This is literal edgy. This was banned.
This was banned in our country because apparently it might make fat women feel sad.
Yeah. So
it's like, okay, like I'm pretty sure
they do a counter propaganda with plus size women on it.
Oh, they did.
Well, what they did was they put Sadiq Khan in a bikini and flew him over the streets of London.
Well, that was after the Trump balloon.
Yeah. But I'm still convinced that Sadiq Khan's ultimate plan is to ban the 5th of November. I have a video on it. It is unfortunately unlisted, but I might put the link in here for people to check it out. But the problem is with this whole like the things that we can't say have literally been like written into law in a lot of cases, and so people that just want to sort of push the boundaries, but again, not in a if we're talking jokes, if we're talking edgy humor, we're they're not literally like saying, you know, these things because they want to express a hateful viewpoint, but because our laws are so just so stupid now that the mere thought that it could be deemed as offensive is nowadays enough to, you know, to warrant a knock on your door, which is, yeah, it's just stupid. It is absolutely stupid. And it doesn't surprise me that a lot of these TV shows, especially the mainstream stuff that you see, tend to skirt well within the boundaries of it. But if we talk about edgy humor, you know, over the last sort of 5-10 years, especially sort of since I would probably say since like 2016, really, since like the whole Brexit debate and Trump's first run at presidency, a lot of the humor that you might not see on like your 9 p.m. BBC comedy or, you know, Channel 4 or on a TV show, you know, similar to that, you know, when you look at it like America, you can find that all online nowadays. More people are sort of moving away from sort of traditional media because it is too processed. It's too watered down, and a lot of people
Well,
nowadays
that's why
just go
late night, which used to be huge in the U.S. I mean,
yeah,
Jimmy Kimmel, God, all of them, they're just failing because they're so milquetoast. Either that, or they're just doing what Washington tells them to, what MSNBC says.
yeah.
It's just so bland or so slanted that people are just turning them off. Kimmel used to be hilarious, and now he's a whiny, cry little. There's other things you got to wonder. I remember watching it on BBC US, BBC America. Things like Life on Mars or Dust to Dust, can they even be shown on the BBC anymore without a warning?
Oh wow.
Well, as wifey screwed up here. Oh, how about the other one? How many of you guys have gone on, say, Netflix or something, or Prime? You're watching a movie on Prime, and it gives you that warning at the start, doesn't it? Contains violence, swearing, sounding, and scenes of smoking.
Oh,
man.
Hang on.
Why mention sounding? Jesus.
What? Who
Can
said
they
that?
even show
You're obsessed
repeats
with
of
it.
The Prisoner or Alum anymore?
Yeah, it's you know, it's that stuff. It's like, oh, it's smoking. I mean, you like have your own opinion on it. It's that smokers are bullied enough, you know. But, oof.
Yeah, we are a discriminated group, I have to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, in conclusion, it's the fakeness. It's the fakeness. It's that just aggravates me. That's what we don't like, when we know what actually is edgy, and it's this. It's, are you beach body ready? It's half the content we watch, frankly, and it absolutely is not this sort of thing. All right.
See,
well,
so I'm just going to sort of push back a little bit because I don't think that last image. I don't think that last image, that Beachbody one, is even edgy. I think what would be edgy would be if they put a fat woman on there and said, "You ain't Beachbody ready. Buy this supplement to get Beachbody ready." That would be the edgy thing. Like, she ain't ready, but you could be.
Well, the old
that's my take.
Oh, who is it? Was it Yorkie or Pot Noodle? The belly's gonna get you advert.
Oh,
they rerun that.
No, that was Reebok. That was Reebok. That was, yeah.
With the music by Cradle of Filth.
The belly's gonna get you. The belly's gonna get you. Yeah, it's Reebok.
Banger of a tune. Sorry for Brit posting, folks, but if you haven't seen it, look up Belly's Gonna Get You.
Yeah.
Classic. Yeah. Now, first, we don't think of it as edgy, but the regime thinks of this as edgy. So that's why I call it that. But yeah, I don't think it is. But edgy is sort of what is troubling to, I guess, the hegemonic viewpoint, really. Anyway, I will move on because I love this topic. I thought we'd air it quickly. And finish this with saying thank you to Adam Lazar dropping in again with $5, saying, reminds me of Blink Twice or Baby Reindeer. Oh, yeah. I haven't watched Baby Reindeer. I know what you're talking about. The trigger warnings tell you what's going to happen and remove the emotion that you would have felt. Yeah. It's a spoiler, isn't it? It's a spoiler. I don't like the coddling, 15, 18 gives me enough of a warning. Oh, hang on. I think in the UK, John Graham saying, I think in the UK, the last edgy satire show was Day to Day. It utterly destroyed the mainstream news. Yet it's impossible not to see the similarity. True, Brass Eye as well. But I haven't done all my thinking in this, but I do think there's something a little, something about, mostly the Brass Eye special. It depends how you interpret it, but it's starting to come in with a little bit of that gatekeeping itself. I'm conflicted on Brass Eye because it did the Petergeddon special.
Oh my god, I was just about to talk about that because me and my wife over Christmas we were watching a thing on Channel 5. It was like the 30 most complained about TV moments, and that was on there. It's so good because it was like,
it's funny, but I just feel awkward about it because like Morris worked at the BBC,
yeah, but it was funny because he like tricked those celebrities, didn't he, to like read those like do those like reads for them, thinking it was like serious, like they were talking about serious subjects, and like it wasn't.
Poor Wolf from Gladiator.
It was that Gary Lineker as well was there. He did a reading, but it was that this paedophile has been roaming the streets of Sheffield disguised as a school.
It's blooming hilarious, and Sidney Cook, the notorious, I shouldn't say it. Oh, monetization's gone.
Yeah,
this was the last thing we wanted to happen. Like, it's hilarious, but at the same time, I don't know. From what we know, what's being discussed in the news right now, I don't know. I think we could do with looking. I don't know, hysteria, over-egged. I don't know. I think we could have actually been a little more on the look for it. Maybe in the places that the regime doesn't want you to. Anyway, maybe. I will move us on obliquely and get us talking about Heretic. If you're one of the wonderful people who leaves a comment with the chapters, here we go, 42 minutes in. I said in the pre-stream.
Not bad.
Yeah, but I said we'll do about 15 minutes on Safe-Edgy, and then I just yammered at you. Thanks for tolerating.
It's all right.
There we go. All right, Heretic from 2024. Interesting one. Did you know that the people behind it, Scott Woods and Brian, I've got that wrong, Scott Beck and Brian Woods? I think that's it. Weirdly enough, they, for this really talky horror film, Scott Beck, Brian Woods, they are the guys behind A Quiet Place. How weird is that?
Oh, okay.
Very fitting. I think they're very clearly... Oh, hang on. What's the hot take, Tory Rebuttal? I will get to it. All right. You're not going to be surprised. My main criticism of Heretic is I think it has a little bit of a whiff of the old Safe-Edgy. Not right-wing Safe-Edgy. It's Safe-Edgy. But we'll get to it. I may be shouted down. It could be. Anyway. So this is like a huge contrast to previous film from Scott Beck and Brian Woods, A Quiet Place, where basically nothing is said. And that film has a very interesting reading. If both Morgoth and Last Things have done interesting readings on that film. This one, total counterpoint, very verbal. Had either of you heard about this before the viewing?
I've heard about it just because I've got some Mormon friends who, one was very upset and the other two were, it treated Mormonism very respectively. And I was like, okay. it was intriguing. And then Adam Loves Horror informed me about it, and thank you very much, Adam, for assisting me in watching it this week. He pointed out where I could go to watch it without having to spend $20 on renting it. So, very helpful. He found some place much cheaper. Let's see. Yeah, that's most of what I've heard. Is it had interesting takes on Mormonism that were fairly respectful. And when you brought it up, I was like, oh, okay, let's watch it.
Yeah.
And that was about all I knew.
How about yourself, TCG?
I'd seen the trailers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was aware of this, yeah.
I'm going to say that trailer sold me.
Big time.
The trailer is an absolute banger. Wonderfully cut, very intriguing. Yeah, I usually wouldn't be interested, but or rather, there's nothing particularly to draw me in, but the trailer was so very well done, and Hugh Grant looked like he was having an absolute whale of a time. That's what pulled me in and made me think I really want to watch this. As for the actual experience, I suppose if anyone hasn't managed to see it, we will obviously be doing a full spoiler discussion, so don't worry about that. If you're happy to be spoiled, stick around. If you haven't seen it, we will give you a quick back of the DVD box summary. Who's feeling plucky? Who wants to take that on?
Yeah, I'll do it. Go for it.
So
this film features two Mormon missionaries, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton. Sister Barnes is a bit more of not outspoken, but a bit more confident, a bit more assured of herself. Whereas you've got Sister Paxton, who is very much like timid, shy, and who takes the religion very, very super serially. They're going around spreading the word, spreading the word of God. And one of the places that they decide to go to is Hugh Grant's house. He plays a character, I think it's Mr. Reed. Mr. Reed, yeah. They go into his house, and yeah, basically it's a film about the discussion of religion. And they start to have theological discussions, talk about the aspects of Mormonism, but not everything is as it seems when it comes to Mr. Reed. He's quite peculiar, and yeah, I would say if you haven't seen this film, Mr. Reed very much wants to challenge Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton's belief systems and put it to the test, shall we say?
Yeah. I mean, if you've seen the trailers, Mr. Reed isn't entirely on the up and up, but
yeah,
yes,
yeah, he's very deceptive, lies by omission.
What they showed in the trailer that absolutely hooked me. And it's almost a shame to give it away because it's so good a reveal, but this is in the trailer, so I don't feel too bad saying it. Because the Mormon missionaries can't go in and as two women unaccompanied, so they need another woman in the house. So he gives them the assurance that his wife is in the back baking a blueberry pie and they can smell it. So they're like, oh, okay, good. They go in and he leaves them alone for a while. And there's just he's brought them a tray with drinks and a candle. They're wondering, oh, we haven't heard from this wife. They turn the candle around and see it's blueberry pie scented. I'm like, oh, very nice. Very nice. This is chilling. Okay. And the other thing they show, I don't think you can see it super clearly here, is he's putting them to the test. He's got a challenge for them. There are 2 doors there behind him, and he will write on them belief and disbelief. He's challenging, like, this is a challenge to their faith that they have to go through. They have to decide which door do they walk through. This was I'm pretty sure this was in the trailer.
It was,
I
believe
okay.
so. Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm like, okay, I'm in. I'm intrigued. This looks like an interesting angle. Yeah. So I guess starter for 10. Wow, gosh. Actually, I'm going to throw this out. Any strong impressions from you guys? Because I don't want to. I'm not dunky on it. I've got a complaint, but I'm not going to dunk on it.
The first thing I noticed, both TCG and I talked about it behind the scenes. The opening shot where they're sitting on the bus bench, and there's an ad for Magnum condoms behind them, talking about whether Magnum condoms are just marketing or if they're real. And Sister Paxton, yeah, they're real.
Yeah,
which I think is funny if you know anything about the Mormon faith. The fact that they're talking about that. Granted, yeah. And then while they're walking around town, there's the rainbow crosswalk, which is pretty typical for the Vancouver area.
Yeah. I don't have a photo of that, but I do have I do have a photo of it.
Yeah.
There we go.
Basically, tests of faith in everyday life. And then going up the separated staircase up the steep hill, talking about staircase being a faith, and then for every set of stairs you go up, your husband's going to be hotter, 5 times hotter.
Yeah.
I want to say I absolutely loved that. It was, none of us here are a Mormon, but I found that really endearing. Like, this opening section really portrays how hard it is to be like this in the world, to be like they are, to be sincere, to be believing, to be modest. They're literally waiting by a bus, and there's an advert for Magnum condoms right behind them. They have to cross a rainbow sidewalk. They're trying to talk to people. They just ignore them. I love the metaphor of they've got the bikes and they're having to take them up the endless stairs.
Well, one of the first thing the girls that they stop, the girls ask them about the magic underwear, which is just, it's a trope.
It is a trope. But it's just so humiliating. It's like you think you've made a connection with these girls. They've been asked to pose for a photo. Sister, oh gosh, which one's the blonde one?
Paxton.
Thank you. I will forget throughout the stream. Sister Paxton is a much more keen. Like, she's trying to do like a, Instagram pose. She's into it. She's thinking she's cool, and she just gets humiliated. And it just emphasizes like how much the world is designed against them. Bringing those bikes up the stairs is just this perfect visual metaphor for how they are not accommodated. They go around by bike. Enjoy your stairs. It's just saying the world is a struggle for them as Mormons.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's just really good stuff. And they were just, they felt really human. I noted that both of the actresses are ex-Mormon.
Okay.
So they know about the world. I'm not saying this makes it an unbiased source, but I think it does give it an authenticity. Oh, interesting. Adam Loves Horror, your boy was Mormon for 32 years. They talk that way. Oh, deep lore. We're getting some
Not
deep lore
Mormon
here.
myself, but my high school and my college
Mm.
both had Mormon student seminaries, and about a quarter of my high school was Mormon. So I learned a lot about it.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Thank you very much for the $2, Adam, and for the deep lore. Yeah, I can believe it. It's like, how can you not, that they are out in the world? There's no way they're not going to see. There's no way they're not going to see porn, right? Like the average age that people encounter prawn these days is literally like 11 or younger, right? There's no way these girls wouldn't have seen it, so they're just discussing it. Why would you not? It's all
Yeah.
around them.
It's
This
quite
was-
funny as well. Yeah, it's quite funny as well because Paxton, when she's describing it, talks about juxtapositions from Tory Rebuttal. But there's kind of a bit of a juxtaposition by the way she's describing it in like graphic detail.
Yes.
But yet she mispronounces the word, but she mispronounces it by calling it pornography.
Yeah.
Like, you know, she never actually pronounces it correct in that scene.
Oh, nice. I love this. I also love in this, like, okay, the clear dynamic here is that Paxton is younger, keener. I mean, this is a dynamic. You have a more experienced missionary with a novice. And she's like super keen. She basically can't wait to give her spiel. It's so adorable. It's like she goes into it like she's 4 Red Bulls deep. Any second, she just goes off on her material. And Sister Barnes, it's like you can just tell from the way she hesitates. She's having a bit of a struggle. She's a bit doubting. I came into this. I really thought, oh, okay, I know what this is. All right. Paxton is going to have her faith broken, but Barnes is going to be turned around. It's going to be a switcheroo. I am very clever. Well, I was totally wrong. That didn't happen. So, yeah, I like that. I like that I was caught out by it, but they also don't make a big thing of this. It's just in the way the characters act. I loved it.
Yeah. The first 10 minutes was pretty cool and got tense. The more they got talking, the more bored I got. I was just reminded of comparative religion classes in high school and college, and how we used to just talk above our level and just hose people up, and how I treated Jehovah Witness missionaries when I was in my 20s, just as you put it, backstage. So a whiff of Reddit anti-religion.
Yeah,
And it had that feeling all the way through it. The older man talking down to the young and inexperienced and trying to break their will, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges that the Reddit bro is the villain in this. So, you know, are we meant to see him as a font of wisdom? I just thought I'd pause on this. I thought this film was also gorgeous. There are some really beautiful shots in it. You can thank, apologies here, Chung Chung-hoon, Korean guy, collaborated with Park Chan-wook, who you'll know from Oldboy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Lady Vengeance. So, in fact, you absolutely love to see it. Yeah, he is a cinematographer for Oldboy.
Oh, wow.
Oh, brilliant stuff. Also Wonka, but hey, look, you can't have everything. And Last Night in Soho, which I didn't actually like, but it's kind of pretty. So yeah, I've just saved a few shots like this because I just thought they're lovely. They look really nice. This is a pretty film. But I guess to get to the meat of it, you know, the conversation they have is in the early stage. It's nice, it's tense, it's challenging. There's sort of a fairly legitimate challenge to Mormonism about the polygamy issue.
Mm-hmm.
You see
like
that. Like it plays with a camaraderie. Like they're warm, and then suddenly it gets tense again. Like that was delicious. And Hugh Grant is just having a whale of a time in that section, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's lovely for him. He was getting to own it. It was brilliant. Very, very well written. The film also, no, you know what? We'll get into that bit later. I guess we've heaped a lot of praise on it, right? I'm going to get now into the bit that I find sours it. Here we go. It's when Heretic becomes Heretic. I'm afraid. It's about.
Oh, really? I liked this scene.
I thought it was too tropey.
I liked it.
I did like the shots of his library.
Hey, look, it takes
with all the iconography and the books, but this was just, yeah.
All right, let's break it down for people who haven't seen Heretic. What is this, and why have I put it up? Actually, you can't read my mind, but go ahead. Just tell people what's happening in this. What happens in this section?
So yeah, in this section, he's basically challenging Paxton and Barnes on the notion that Mormonism is nothing more than a rewrite of previous iterations. He talks about iterations, about how it takes from scriptures things like the Torah, the New Testament, the Islamic book, I nearly called it the Quran, but not only that as well, but he has like entire like walls of like posters and images and of like deities and historical events that took place thousands of years or hundreds of years before even some of these books were written. And he's talking about how essentially nothing is really original in the sense that everything that's come after sort of like the original story is just an iteration. And one of the things that he does as well is he uses that song like sometimes all I need is the air that I breathe, which is brilliant, because then he talks about like, you've heard this song before, and they're like, no, and he's like, you've heard a Creep song, because and then he talks about the legal issues that they had, and then Lana Del Rey had, and he's like, it's just iterations. But yeah, specifically with the books, with the holy books, he talks about the Torah being like the original, the first to come out, and then he compared it to the Landlord's Game, which was made by, and he emphasized it was a feminist, a lady,
he did.
Which basically had the same sort of well, he actually first talks about Monopoly, and then he talks about the Landlord's Game, which had all the same sort of like it was the same structure as Monopoly, but he compared that to the Torah being the original, sort of like the less popular one. Then you had Christianity, the New Testament, being the original board game, the more popular one, the one that hit the mainstream, and then you had sort of like the new sort of trendy one, if you will, being the Quran with Monopoly Ultimate Banking, which, by the way, I do own. So I do have that.
The Quran associated with owning it all. What did they mean by this?
So, in terms of board games, I do own the Quran. In that, and then he compared the Book of Mormon to, I can't remember what he specifically called it, but yeah, he compared it to Bob Ross's Monopoly.
Yeah. Wacky regional variation.
That's it. I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I loved. I thought it was a really good scene. I thought the analogies between sort of like the Holy Scripture, because it is an argument I've heard before. Because he talks about how he spent quite a lot of his life dedicated to finding the one true religion, and it's just something that's come up in time and time again through his research, that the stories that are taken from one aspect of Abrahamic religion is then sort of adopted and adapted and modified in sort of like later iterations. And what he discovers essentially is that there's nothing really that can really pin one religion as being the one true religion, and it's just sort of like a mishmash. And then he claims to have found the one true religion, but doesn't really
Yeah.
go into detail as to what that is at that point. You're sort of left hanging as to that point
Yeah.
because he gets
The
distracted by
exact
something else.
quote
It's a good
was
hook.
the exact
Great
quote
hook.
was, "I never wanted to find the one true religion,
That's it.
but unfortunately, I did."
Yes.
And at this
Yeah.
point, I didn't know how far off it was going to go off the rails, but my Lovecraftian scholarship peaked and all. Yeah, Cthulhu Fatagan. I was like, this is where it's going to go? I'd be happy with that.
Oh, I would have lapped that up. I want to put it. Okay, look, we'll deal with this, but I have a feeling, guys. I have a feeling that in the writing room of Scott Beck and Brian Woods, they absolutely knew they wanted to do this bit. They absolutely knew they wanted the door with belief and disbelief. They knew that. And it's beyond, like, that was a strong image in their brain. And beyond that, they panicked. Because, like, that is such a great setup. And then after that, it's like, oh gosh, where do we take this? Where do we take this? I think they had a bit of a worry. I think that everything after the double doors will have been gone through about 30 or 40 different ideas. But they knew for certain that they wanted to get to this scene. Which is why they take about an hour to do it, by the way. It's not a short film. It's like
Hour 57?
Hour 47 of story. It flies by, in fairness, but, well, Murgoot, you said it was a bit slow, but
I thought it was really slow. I was having problems with internet yesterday, so I was getting it in 10-minute chunks, and I was not enjoying it because it was kind of fragmented. And when I rewatched it this morning, the first hour was still a bit boring. I'd heard all the arguments before. I was just kind of, come on, when's something going to happen? And then once it started, I was fine.
Yeah, see, I didn't have a problem with the pacing. I really didn't.
I think that will have been the fact that you had an interrupted viewing, but I loved it.
Yeah, it's just because Murgoot said that he watched it again, without the issues and still had the same opinion. But I felt like the pacing was fine for this film.
Yeah.
I do like it when he. Sorry to go back a little bit, but
sure,
it's just these little moments of the film where when they initially agree to come in, as he's taking their coats, he's like, oh, the walls and ceilings have got metal inside them. Hopefully that's not a problem. Immediately, like in your head, you're like, okay, so metal in the, that's obviously setting up some sort of like mobile like signal issue.
Yeah.
Which
basically the house is a Faraday cage.
Exactly, yeah. And so, which obviously then sets up later on when they pretend that they get a phone call from the church to say they need to go back, and he already knows they've lied, but he passes it off in such a flippant way that the girls don't really pay attention to what he's just said. They're just like, yeah, sure. Yeah. They're just being polite, but they don't really take on board what the implication is until he then like calls them out on it. I really like that, and it just sort of in the back of your mind you're like, okay, something's not right. Like they should be picking up on these signals earlier, but it's almost like he almost like distracts them with other sort of things like, oh, let me take your coats. Oh yeah, by the way, is that fine? Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, all that setup was great. There is some very good setup and payoff in this. As quickly, Adam, thank you for sending another $2. Reiteration, sometimes known as stealing. Indeed. Homage. It's an homage.
I did like that about a third of the way through, they discover that the key is swapped coats.
Yeah.
It's an excellent little detail.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the elder of the church comes to check on them, I was immediately thinking, well, the bikes, right?
Yeah.
Oh, he didn't see the bikes, right? So, and then I'd already had enough to put it together. I like that they didn't spell it out. But now to crap on the film.
Oh, great.
Look. For what he's trying to say, this you might hate this, but for what he's trying to say, this is a perfectly good analogy, right? But the only problem is it is absolutely reeking of Reddit. This is a point that I have seen. It's been reposted from Reddit. I've seen it on Lefty Twitter. I have this horrible feeling that I know these guys saw it on Twitter. I remember this was a talking point. I just have that awkward feeling that I know these guys didn't come up with it. They got it from the same place I got it. And yes, I had to make the joke as well. Heretic, absolutely. I'll mispronounce it later, but there's also hereditary. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So the problem with this is I just know this talking point. It's when you see a talking point you know really well crop up, you're like, oh.
That's part of why
the
first.
And this bit as well, like these talking points about the gods have anything in common. Like, one of the big problems is the information Grant gives in the scene is just straight up inaccurate. Like, if you go on the, like, a few of them I knew, but if you go on the IMDb trivia, people have already pointed out just a lot of these are very Fedora tier, just straight up, you'll repeat. I mean, it kind of fits part of his message, but these are things that he's just repeating a meme.
Yeah, this is basically high school or freshman level comparative religion. And
yes.
All the snide jokes and everything. Just the sneering way of saying it. It's upper level, just you haven't really looked into it, or you're just giving that to throw them off base. And I've heard these arguments so often.
Yeah, I'm going to say, like, is it not that because you've heard these arguments before? I've heard them before. But the fact that you've heard these arguments before, is that more of a you problem than it is a film problem? Well, because surely there are going to be people that haven't heard these opinions, or it's not been visualized in a way that the film tries to portray it in. But I think it's a valid way of challenging their soul beliefs in saying that, actually, look, are you sure that your ideas are correct? Because they are here in these older texts, they are here in these older stories, that you know, the things that you're telling us aren't necessarily true, and not necessarily true, but not necessarily original, and also there's the point of potentially being able to prove it. Like, can you prove these things? Like, you can't. This is why we're talking about belief systems and faith, and you know, what pushes you to believe in something as true. You know, and how far are you willing to go to prove your faith, if you will, prove your beliefs? I think that's what this film is doing, more than just trying to present. Yeah, sure, it might use a Reddit tier argument to get to its point, but I don't actually have a problem with the writers essentially taking taking a previous idea, making a new iteration of it, and then presenting it out to the audience.
Yeah. Well, I was just bored by the arguments, and it was just too much talk.
Yeah, but again, also when we talk about what he's doing, essentially he's providing them with this new information, and then it's up to those two, Paxton and Barnes, as to whether they believe it or not. And again, it's just something, you know. And they do sort of push back a bit later on when they talk about, is it Barnes when she's like, one of them's got a freaking bird head.
Yeah, that was a good refutation of his argument. Just
so one of them's got a bird head. Like, come on.
I did enjoy that.
To that point, I was fully engrossed in the movie, but part of it was I just had problems with all the talk and just the puerile.
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
Basic
All right.
stuff. And that's me. It's not the film itself. It's just my personal problem with the pacing.
It's a banana.
Creeper weirdo, get out of here. Get out of here. All right, if I could just respond to TCG, because I think it's a really fair point. So you asked about, is it a problem that it's an argument? What if people haven't seen it before? I actually don't. I think that's a really fair point. Okay, we know it. Other people might not. That's totally fair. Basically, my problem is that these are a carbon copy talking points. And the trouble is they have been refuted. And you could basically make this same argument, but without including incorrect information, right? So that they could have just polished that up, removed some of the examples. They'd be absolutely fine. But just including some that we already know, it's a bit lazy. Versus what, say, the one I hadn't heard was the music comparison. I really liked that. I thought that was great. That was really interesting. That really worked in the film because it was an audio thing. You started to put those connections together. That was great.
The Hollies,
so I like that. Yeah,
the Hollies, Radiohead, and Lana Del Rey, and the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. So.
It was very well done, and so I like that. So my point is basically, it was a lazy reheating of just memes we know from elsewhere, and it does come down to, and this is obviously entirely my personal view. When you're doing a movie about this, I hoped it would go somewhere new, and ultimately I think it was having a discussion that we'd had 20 years ago. Like, was it 2006 A God Delusion was out?
Oh gosh.
Or how about even earlier? Do you remember Dogma?
I do remember Dogma.
I like Dogma. Dogma's a really fun, really well written movie, and it comes to basically the same point of view of this film, told in a very different way. You know, it's Kevin Smith, so he does just literally tell you what he wants you to take away. This film is more subtle about it. The same thing of religion has problems with its very solid ideas, but faith itself is a good thing, and there's more in the world than you understand. Like, we got there, like, Dogma was what, 2000? That came out?
I think it was, yeah, I think it was.
And Heretic comes to the same point. The way Heretic spells it out, by the way, is you know, a little bit of symbolism involving butterflies that had been set up. And at the end, we see the title again, but it's blurry. It's blurry. And it's the idea of faith matters, but you're not going to get a clear view of it.
Dogma,
and you're going to have doubt. 99, right? So this is sort of making the same view. Faith is good, but you'll never get a clear view of it. Never clear enough to, you know, lock it down into religion. Religion, when it's locked down, is where you get weird stuff. That's kind of the point of view of this movie, as I understand it.
I just think with the specific scene that you're nitpicking, I feel like it's more of a case of, like, he's making these claims and it's up to them to believe it or not. Very much like how religion will make claims about, you know, the existence of God, or, you know, certain, you know, things that happen within the scriptures, and then it's down to the person to believe it or not, with, you know, whether there is actual evidence to refute that or not. Again, it's beside the point. It is about whether the person absorbing that information accepts that information and believes that information to be true with the absence of proof. Very much like, you know, again, like the claims that you're saying that he made that are refutably wrong. Okay, fine, that's cool. But, you know, if they don't know that themselves, Paxton and Barnes, it's up to them to choose whether to believe it or not. And you sort of see that later on in the next scene when they choose a door and go through. Like, literally, they are put to the test. You know, they witnessed something, and and then they're told to, then they're asked whether they believe what they saw happened, or whether they could try and sort of explain it away. I just don't think it's trying to be as Reddit tier as you might think it to be. Like, sure, they might again use some of the ideas that have already been sort of floating around the internet for the past decade or so, but I just think it's presented, it's given to these two girls who have only really, well, actually, with the exception of Barnes, because Barnes was brought into the religion via her mum after their dad left or died. I can't remember which one.
Died.
Whereas Paxton has grown up in the Mormon religion. She was born into it, So as far as she's concerned, in terms of that sheltered life, she's only really had Mormonism to sort of lean on to sort of guide her. Whereas Barnes may have had other influences which might drive her doubts that you sort of see expressed through the film. Like she has a contraception rod thing injected in inserted in her arm, which
she'd had the rod all right. That's why she needed the implant.
Yeah. Hence why she knew about the magnums. She wasn't talking about her sister's ex-husband. Well, she might be talking about her ex-husband, but she won't talk about the sister.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a fair point. It's a fair point.
Was kind of fun.
Oh yeah, that I really like that bit. That I'm digging in on a blind spot the movie has as I see it. I think you do make a fair case, but if you're writing this movie, I want something fresh, not Reddit tier reheated stuff. Now there is interesting stuff here. So Adam and Mostly Dead have pointed to something. Adam sent $5 asking, is it possible he knows he's misinforming them here, but makes them doubt, which gives him control? TCG, I got you. So Adam's backing you up there.
Yeah, I mean, what he does a lot in this film is he misdirects and he lies by omission. He doesn't tell them everything.
Yes, you're free to leave at any time.
Yeah, you're free to leave at any time. Yeah, my wife's just out in the back. We've got the blueberry pie on the go.
Yeah,
the walls and ceilings are laden with metal, but
it's I mean, part of the blind spot here where I'm getting into trouble and why I was disappointed is just because where it's challenging worldviews here, right? Using old stuff, I just thought for me, it's moments like where Barnes got to give her rebuttal to him. And I could see the frame within which she made the rebuttal.
Okay.
I'm trying not to make it contentious, but he says the reason there are only a tiny number of Jews compared to Muslims is because they don't proselytize. And, and she's like, didn't you hear about a certain event in the 20th century? And it's like, the trouble is, that is a really safe liberal explanation. Like, if we're thinking out the box, yes, Judaism traditionally does not proselytize, absolutely. But the difference is a little bit more than that. For instance, maybe they didn't want to mention in the film that, Islam had a history of mass conquest and expansion.
True.
That might be a little bit more to do with it, why there's a numbers game, but
yeah.
It's just a very Reddit point. And you could say, hey, it's in character. That's what she would know. But it just, to me, it felt a bit safe-edgy. It's like, if you're clapping back, it's clapping back in a way that doesn't risk your film getting protested.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. Personally, I don't see it being a problem talking about the conquests and that sort of early Islam had. It's common knowledge. I don't think it's controversial to point that out. I mean,
I would have just liked the film to have done it.
Yeah.
But they.
Of course. But I agree. It would have been interesting if he pointed, or if they had said something along those lines back to him. But yeah, like he does, but the point is, yeah, his claim is that the reason why Judaism isn't as big a deal as other religions is the fact that they don't go around promoting it. But yeah, whereas other religions do, they don't have sales representatives. You know, they don't have people in sales like you do.
Yeah. Adam had said another $2. Joseph Smith made claims that millions still believe. I think we were getting into it. I don't know if I'm not quite sure where that came in, but thank you very much.
Again, I think it's more to do with. You know, he made claims that, you know, he perhaps couldn't back up with empirical evidence. You know, like Hereditary, the golden plates, yeah. The retelling of or the retranslations that he had to do because apparently God got pissed off because he was divvying out the original text, so he had to rewrite it off another script, off another text. But yeah, but obviously he couldn't prove these things empirically, you know, without a shadow of a doubt. So again, it was, you know, what you know, do people accept it at face value or do they choose to dismiss it? And this is, I think, this is what this film is trying to do. With Hugh Grant's character, with Mr. Reed, he's trying to present these scenarios to these two girls, and essentially it's just a test of faith, almost like.
And
Job,
very interestingly, I don't know how you'd interpret this because we could take this a couple of ways. It's a false choice. It turns out to be a false choice. Both doors lead to the same place. What did he mean by this? .jpg? How do you guys read that? What's he going on about here?
I don't know. You'll have to help me out here. Okay.
All right. Well, I suppose one reading is that whether you have faith or not, you both, you know, you end up in the same place. You're subject to control however you go about it, which I thought, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I think the fact that you mentioned control is interesting because later on in the film, Paxton concludes through everything that she's gone through that what Mr. Reed is trying to demonstrate is the one true religion is control. So the fact that you just mentioned control, yeah, okay, yeah. I think they're not in control of their own destiny at this point. They are pretty much under his thumb.
I mean, the mind games of them choosing, I thought was wonderful. There's like, what do you do? But then, okay, they're trying to decide what they want to do, but then they also think, okay, we've got to play what we think he wants us to do. That stuff is just great. And then you could be disappointed that they just end up in the same place anyway, but I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was great.
Yeah. All
that tension for the choice actually not, you know, ultimately not mattering. They end up in the same bit. And
then Mr. Reed brings in the prophet.
This is a bit where I don't know. Do you agree with me on this? Like the idea that the writers had this locked down, but after this, I think they probably had a nightmare working out where they went after.
You mean the Monopoly bit, and then after this is where they struggle.
Yeah, like the choice between which door is like so strong, and then it's like after that you kind of can go anywhere with a film.
Yeah, I said this behind the scenes beforehand. I would have loved it if this film was just one great big misunderstanding between these two girls, where yes, Mr. Reed is very eccentric, and yes, Mr. Reed is a very weird person, and yes, he does subject these girls to what would be seen as extreme tests of faith. But ultimately, what he said about them being able to leave at any time is true. They are safe, they're fine, but they just perceive him to be this massive threat and end up killing an innocent man. I would have loved that to have been the film. Do you know what? I agree with you to a point. I think it's after this bit, I think, where the film, where they might have panicked. Because I feel like, the initial sort of, I'm going to present my claim and I'm going to use the Monopoly boards as examples of my claim to strengthen to strengthen that. I'm then going to present you with two options. yes, both options lead to the same place, all roads lead to Rome, then yes, I'm going to present you with this scenario where a prophet dies and is resurrected and and describes the experience of the afterlife, and then I'm going to present that to you as do you believe or disbelieve those claims? I think it's from that point onwards that it gets a bit muddy a bit.
Yeah.
Yes, toy rebuttal. Yes, they should have.
Oh, I would love that. I would absolutely love it. And just, in fact, even better, just I'd like multiple versions of it, and you never know which one you're getting.
Yes, I was
You
just
like,
thinking that. Yeah,
Kind of like the old Clue.
yeah, totally. I would love that, like where the difference between the doors really mattered, anyway. I just think that is an opportunity in tech that we haven't seen yet. You know, where there's a chance for a choice to go a different way. I'd like to be surprised by which version of the film I get. But anyway, yeah, this was an interesting one. You know, it's his premise of testing. If I make a claim, if I show you a miracle, will you go along with it? It's kind of a nice premise. I think we could, if Harrion were with us. Excuse me. If Harrion were with us, there'd be some quibbling you could do of the plan here. And it was on the second watch that I started thinking, like, does this hold together? Because obviously we're full spoilers here, folks. We're full spoilers. What you've got here is actually him setting up a trick, a distraction with misdirection. And he is only able to accomplish the trick
you need to say
by
Twix.
His Twix. He's up to his old Twix, etc. Give him 2 fingers, etc. Right? Good. Move on. Filthy. It's a family-friendly show, guys. No filthy jokes. Anyway, he needs to misdirect them, and he does that by the door going off. The trouble is, he doesn't control the door. How does he know when the elder is arriving? How does he know that?
He doesn't, and it gets pointed out later on in the movie, but I'm not sure how. It's her postulate, not it. Kind of. I don't know if it on. Now that you mention, I don't know if her explanation holds together, or just her piecing together the clues. That came almost. Well, I'm getting ahead of myself.
That's okay. I think what I've got here is like he can fake getting a doorbell ringing easily enough, but the fact that it was actually someone at the door is just a bit too convenient. So it doesn't entirely hang together, but it is nevertheless. Oh, and also the whole they really wouldn't notice a trapdoor. I don't know.
Yeah,
Harrion would be flipping out.
Yeah, it was dark and dim, but when they were standing at the table, the door was large enough that they would have heard the difference between stone floor and a metal door.
Yeah, I'm gonna press the old extra doubt on there. Great premise, could have been polished. They did lean a little heavier on the jump scares here, but I've got to be honest, I didn't mind it.
Yeah,
I liked it so much I could forgive.
The one thing I did like was the fact that the elder checked the schedule and went out looking for them because they hadn't messaged or returned yet. He went out looking for them, retraced their route. I thought that was good of them to show that the elder was Topher Grace.
Unexpected Topher Grace.
The wherewithal to go looking for his missionaries and showed that he actually cared.
Yeah, I was wondering if I should big brain that, get a bit of the old big brain powder on it, because there's something about like having the patriarch figure looking out for you. And there's sort of a God stand in there, but I don't think it actually holds up because the lack of omniscience, but the idea that someone out there is looking out for them was really good and wholesome. I mean, that sort of thing does paint Mormonism in a really good light in this film, which is quite unexpected.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me is in its favor. Actually, you know what? You've given me a bit of a segue, so I'll tie in here. Forgive me for this. I'm shamelessly yanking the reins of the convo because there was a bit I forgot to cover earlier. It was where we're talking about the sort of challenging worldviews and all that. But like, I'm gonna bust. I'm gonna have a go at religion with my Monopoly. It was one of the other weakened, and where you see that the film's worldview is also very constrained in current day liberal beliefs, particularly with Sister Barnes trying to do a smackdown that, conveniently leaves out a lot of Islamic history they don't want to talk about. But we also got other signs of the film's own ideological cage. And we get one of the early ones when the Eldar is out looking for the missionaries. We only see him knock on one house before he meets Mr. Reed. And this is a couple he comes across. And they're very helpful. But this is, let's just say this is an uncommon combination.
It's Vancouver. I forgive it.
Who is it?
It's in Vancouver. I forgive
It's in Vancouver. Maybe
very
they do
multicultural place. Very, very.
Yeah.
I would have been. I'm surprised one of them wasn't Chinese, but that's about it. But
well, yeah, if you want the authenticity in Hong Kong, in Vancouver, it's got to be sort of one Indian with a Chinese woman, right? Anyway,
yeah,
it's this little thing that when they show one couple, this is the one they go for. I've just pulled up another one. They had a reassurance in the credits. No generative AI was used in the film. And there's this warning in the end credits. I don't know. I assume everyone stuck around and watched the entire end credits, right?
No,
I tried to, but
very
I had watching 720p, and the credits were very, very blurry.
Well, for those who didn't read all the credits, I have got your back. There's a little note at the end of it saying, this motion picture was made on the traditional and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish. I cannot pronounce the next one. I'm not trying to insult it. I just don't know how to pronounce that. Kaikate First Nation, Kwantlen, Katsi. Anyway, many First Nations groups.
So,
am I just being
Vancouver?
Yeah, like, am I being harsh? Am I hating on these groups? No, I'm not hating on them in the least. I'm pointing out that the film that levels merrily at criticisms of religion really is demonstrating it has its own current day ideology.
Well, it's also Film Board of Canada.
Yeah, but that's it.
They have to do that, especially where they filmed it in Vancouver, because the First Nations are very, very particular.
Oh yes, but it's a thing of this is the current religion. This is what they've got to do, right? Let's see. The Hays Code is gone, but the the land acknowledgement is in.
Yeah.
You can say felching and all sorts of stuff, but that's fine. You can talk about felching and sounding, no problem. But you got to make sure the land acknowledgement is that's the new commandment. So that's what stuck out to me is like the film, not so big on the commandments, but very big on this. This is why I kind of thought this was a good one for the Safe-Edgy discussion. They've got the message there for everyone. There was also another thing. I'll get it in here while we're on a tangent. These cute little touches. I don't know if you noticed the number of the house.
No.
69. Lol.
Classic.
Okay.
420.
Nice. 237.
Okay.
Little reference to The Shining. Very nice.
Ah.
And also, I don't know. Do I have a better one? I think probably the best shot I've got of it is actually in my here. I thought we had a bit of a second Shining tribute. Just the way the writing is on the door there. It made me think of The Shining again. So I like that. I also thought this model of the house. There's a reason it's there, certainly, but because this is also an A24 movie, you can't see this and not think of Hereditary.
Right. There was a really interesting camera shot that they did when she was running around the house at one point, and then it sort of panned out, and then she was like in the dollhouse, and then she comes through like the door back into the main room where that is. And I did think to myself, like, hold on a minute, have we just gone supernatural here or something?
Yeah, I mean, it's an A24 movie. They're paying tribute. And I thought, okay, we like a little tribute. But then I thought, hang on, this is a film that talked to us about iterations for 40 minutes straight.
Yeah.
They've done their own little, hey, here's a tribute to a film that we're referencing. We're reusing a bit. It's an iteration. Yeah. It's great. So I thought, yeah, kudos to them. Very clever, very nice. Do a classic and do a recent classic. So yeah, that was quite nice. Anyway, I'm getting that out of the way. I'll move us back onto the film discussion and the issue of the prophet. TCG, did she spook you a bit? Did you get any scares in this? No.
Nah.
Nope.
Oh. I liked it.
I liked it, but
no spooking.
No spooking. I liked it, but yeah, it wasn't. It was kind of like it didn't keep me up.
No, fair enough. Then we're all hardened veterans.
Yeah, that's the thing. Desensitized, big time.
I thought it did manage to land some quite nice scares when Sister Barnes meets her sad fate, though.
Oh yeah,
she
really weird.
Her coat, and he's not the one who ends up with his throat slashed. She ends up just the shot of her neck opening up, and then turns to Mr. Reed, and he's got the carpet knife extended out. It's like, oh, ow.
This film is very good at setup and payoff.
Yeah,
we got the carpet. We got a reason he has a carpet knife. We've got it set up. We've got the plan that we think is going to happen there. We also get a very obvious setup of the plank with the nails in.
I was going to say that iteration. I was going to say it's their iteration of Chekhov's gun.
Indeed, but just the way this was done was great. I thought this focus on Barnes was really well done. It helped it land. The move into slow-mo made it very atmospheric. Just it's a small cast, so you've got to get the most out of this stuff. And I really like this. I think this image in particular was really strong.
Yeah.
And then the little talk, and then he moves over to Barnes and slashes open her arm, and just matter of fact, like, that's a vein, and digs out the Norplant.
Well, can we just talk about that for a moment, actually? Because when after he does that and he's over her body, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, she'll be up again in a minute." Did any of you two think, "Hold on, she could actually rise"?
Yeah, I didn't know where it was going at that point.
Yeah,
I was really into it.
Yeah, so was I, and then obviously it didn't, and then he came up with the explanation. Oh yeah, and then he like goes on about simulation theory. Now, like, I'm sure you guys have heard about that. Like,
oh yeah,
already, yeah. So again, it's just another example of his version, his iteration of what simulation theory is. And he just sort of hand waves away. Oh yeah, it didn't work because of because she's not like real. And I could tell that because of the candle, because he'd sort of held the candle up to both of them as well.
Yeah, the idea that he was just sort of improvising there really worked for me. I thought that was really good. Like
me too.
Yeah, it may have come off like I don't like this movie. It's like, no, I really like this movie. I have that quibble with it, that ideologically it is not equipped to say something new. It's very much stuck in its bubble.
Yeah, but again, I want to say that's I think that's the point of the film, is that it's rehashing a lot of existing talking points, very much like what he was trying to explain through the Monopoly boards and religious texts, and how like the influences that some like the newer religions have taken from the older ones. I think that is a theme within this film. So I think when you're seeing things or noticing things like that, I think it's 100% intentional.
Okay, I guess it could just be me and you. We won't do that bit again. It's just, I guess, if you know it well, you want the debate to move on. Like,
sorry.
if it's kind of when you're on X now and you see someone kind of trot out a 2016 point.
Yeah.
We had that discussion. We had that discussion for 3 years. We're done with that.
Yeah. Funny, like you talk about it, like again, we're sort of going over old ground again. The grooming scandal.
Yeah.
How many stories are you hearing now, or people hearing now, and you sort of looking at it and going, yeah, but I already knew that. Like, this isn't news to me. Like, this is something that I was aware of for ages.
Yeah, exactly. And
it hit the U.S. mainstream and just exploded all over the world. And those people who ignored it.
Yeah. But it's just interesting that it's just if you're looking for more recent examples, I think that is one controversial thing that people weren't allowed to talk about that all of a sudden we are now.
Yeah, it's just, I think if you've, how can I say, I'm trying to think of a way to phrase this, but if you say suddenly, it's like if you've gotten a chance to make a film about, say, that issue, and not the BBC choosing like the one faked one. Thanks, BBC. Very cool. Very, very cool of you. Anyway, if you had the chance to do that and you suddenly made it a film about the dangers of stereotyping, actually, and it's like, hold on, whoa, it's kind of like, we've had that, and real life has got us to a place like 4 steps beyond where that argument was. So just bringing up that argument doesn't work because we tried it that way, etc. Anyway, I'll not. Oh, have you guys heard of the wage gap? Yes. Yeah,
that ain't what Creeper's saying. That ain't what Creeper's saying.
But it is like if someone brings that thing up again, you're like, oh, we've done this. If he brought that up in this movie, it's sort of a similar feeling to me. But anyway, this was good stuff. This was interesting. I
do like the contrast from the upstairs library being all the world's recognized faiths. And then when he leaves Paxton alone, she escapes through the door, and the next door has the seal of Lesser Key of Solomon. And then all the imagery is the dark gods, Satanism, the Asuras, the everything like that, all the dark imagery going through in a very messy library, and then moving on past into the room with the cages.
Yeah, I thought, well, how did you interpret that?
Basically, if you think about it religiously, she was up top and then she's sent below and she continues going down into the heart of darkness, the heart of evil. And she finds the cages and the imprisoned women who are, according to him, they made the choice to be here. And she's realizing that she's made the choice involuntarily.
Yeah.
He tricked her into making the choice, just like these other poor, unfortunate women.
There is sort of a feel of like Dante's, Dante's Inferno.
As a matter of fact, they bring up,
and they bring up there's a picture that you see for a brief moment, which is of Dante's Inferno.
Yes. And what happens after you see that picture? There's an interesting camera move.
I don't recall.
You start seeing her you have an upside down camera shot.
Oh, of course.
So it's the idea you've gone out the other side. You've reached the farthest low, and then it's you've got through it. So that's why it was an upside down camera shot that changed. I thought that was lovely.
Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso.
Can I Adam Loves Horror got it as well. Adam Loves Horror also sent one a while ago. I'm sorry I didn't read it, but certified horror veteran points here for Adam saying nothing scared me. Safe, edgy, dark horror bros. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we're all veterans here. We're all veterans. I kind of had the idea that he knows they'll go through this path, right? And he's I think he kind of set up the more satanic rooms as like a troll. As in almost that's what you expect.
Well, both of his libraries are a troll. I mean, excuse the pun, but he's big into control. Just that's all it is he's studied everything, and everything comes back to control of others, control of self, control of others.
Sorry, I'm football in the background.
State of you. TCG controlled by football.
Mate, Amar Diallo, I tell you what, that kid is a wonder. 1-0 down in the first half. We're 3-1 up now. He scored 2 goals in the dying minutes. Actually, it's the 81st, 90th, and now 94th minute. Just, yeah.
Good watching. All right. I think we can save this film from the Reddit basement. Because, okay, if everything's all about control, right? But they end up taking this path anyway, regardless of whether they go through the belief or disbelief door. Then this is kind of saying that whether you have faith or not, you are still subject to control, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, almost a statement on your path is predetermined, and the person who set the path is fully in control.
Well, you can read that as very sort of like elite theory build. You can read that as very much a sort of different strokes for different folks style of control. But wherever you exist in society, there will be a lever of power up on you. I'm like, oh, that's a pretty interesting idea. I can like that. I would like that explored a bit more, but it's nice. Paul's had someone's interesting comment here. I thought I'd read out for us. Paul, I apologize. Blagojevic, I'm sorry for mangling that. Frankly, this thing seemed to be the distant right view of religion, pragmatic use control versus individualist therapeutic faith, which is what you get in the end. Butterfly bit sucks either way. That's mostly a fair comment, Paul. The one option left out of this is that it's true. Definitely, that's the thing excluded from the false dichotomy. Distant right view of religion. I'm not sure I would call the idea of religion as pragmatic use and control distant right. unless you mean sort of a I suppose there's sometimes there's sometimes a kind of rightist postmodern view that okay, even if it's not true, it has great value as heritage and as community building and is kind of inherent, so you might as well own it, so it can't be used against you, or it's part of your heritage, it's just what you have to do, go along anyway. I suppose those are views I've seen. Part of control, that could work as well, I suppose, in the sense there's an idea I've seen in the right that I'm very sympathetic to, which is basically most people aren't equipped to come up with their own full moral system, and you're better off having something that works for the mass of people, whilst acknowledging that, I don't know, you can have different situations for 130 IQ Anglos, basically, if you get me. And the individualist therapeutic faith of who cares, it works out and makes me feel nice is, probably a fair criticism. Yeah, they're both troubled options. Any thoughts on that, guys? I think I kind of rambled there. Sorry.
No, I think you've got it. There's some on the right, or I don't even know if they're on the right, who see who actually take Marx's view that religion is the opiate of the masses and can be used to control, and it must be either removed or enforced one way or the other, depending on the viewpoint. And it's very, very frustrating either way to see that. And this, I think it drew the fine line between them and came up with more of a middle road that actually worked and gave a good positive outcome, even though you don't know if Paxton dies or lives. But
True.
That's just my feeling on it.
I suppose I did have a big trouble of Paxton saying she knows prayer doesn't work. Again, I'm not Mormon, but I'm not going for her.
That's not a Mormon thing. That's a scientific experiment thing that she drags it out to capture his attention, and then she states, I don't care. Praying for somebody is a good thing to do. And whether it works or not, the feeling of helping somebody out by making them feel that they're being looked after is a good thing.
Yeah, I would think that a religious Mormon would give a different answer, though. I think it not just like it's a nice thing to do. I think it would be more like we can't decide God's will, but we can ask, and or I don't know, she'd be thanking him for the life she had, etc., or to pray for the soul of Sister Barnes. I just wouldn't. I wouldn't think that someone religious would describe prayer as openly not working, but just a nice thing to do. That lost me on it,
It kind of lost me until I thought about it like she was distracting him by making him think she was falling into line with him. But I can see your point too.
Yeah, it felt to me a little bit more like, once again, I mean, this is kind of I'm sorry for keep saying, but it felt to me like this is a liberal writer not being able to get into the headspace. You know, I'll go on a quick tangent here. I was really enjoying the delicious femme slop that is Outlander, where a woman from the 1940s goes back to 1740 Scotland.
Oh, yeah, it's my ex and her friends absolutely loved Diana Gabaldon, or however you pronounce her name, Gabaldon.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, but one thing they consistently cannot do is accurately write characters who would have the viewpoints of people living in that time. They approach it more than sort of most series I've seen of that kind, or films of that kind, but they overall just can't bring themselves to write a good character that you are meant to like, who thinks like someone from that time period. You know, they always have to be basically having the current year opinions. So you can't escape from it. And I think we had the same thing here. Like, bless them, they may have tried, they may have done their research, but they couldn't get themselves into that mind space. And I'll just say Inbred Duck, who, by the way, is one of the best avatars going on here.
Love that.
I've liked your comments on this, and yes, there we go. People had morals before organized religion. Yeah, they did. They did. It's just a form of cohesion, and it's a form. What it can do is get people into that cohesive spirituality. It gets them seeing each other as a community. And it can aim to call us to a higher ideal, especially sort of longer term thinking, you know, and try and put some of the very base impulses that we all have aside. So, yeah, spirituality, very essential for a cohesive society, and something more aspirational. In addition to, you know, I try and leave my own biases out, but in addition to actual worship of the divine, but it's my own biases there. Anyway, Dr. Prepper has another good comment. There are definitely some liberal writer moments in this. The discussion about the misogyny implied by polygamy. Absolutely, Dr. Prepper.
Yeah.
Boomer truth narrative regarding mid-century Germans. Ooh-wee. Yes. Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, you could say that is what a woman of that age would think, but I think it also happens to be what the writers think. Just some odd stuff. I mean, you could say that Hugh Grant is posing there. He's posing by dropping a couple of breadcrumbs, like, oh, the problem is it was misogynistic. The problem was, oh, it's homophobic, etc. When he doesn't actually care about this, but there are more subtle bits, like everyone in cages is female.
Yeah, Adam Loves Horror brings it up.
Oh, he got there as perfect timing. Yeah, women in cages. It's notable that the idea of the control is only of the women. Now, you know, it wouldn't have hurt them. Wouldn't have hurt them to just chuck a chap in. You know.
Well, I was half expecting him to kill Elder Topher Grace but he let him go, and even after the elder returned and gave him the brochure, I was still expecting him to get killed. But yeah. I was happy he didn't. It added to the film that he was selective about what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I just think this film was trying to get the idea to you that, okay, all religion is about control, but especially of women. Like, I mean, if that was your point, you wouldn't need to say it, but it's a little bit of the old 2020s liberal writer in there. We do like tracking the screenwriters. We do like uncovering the screenwriters on this channel. Thank you again for Adam for $2. You timed that perfectly. we were a bit synced up there, so I sort of talked over your comment, but yeah, we're on the same wavelength there. Moving on, we to the end. We have the showdown. How do you feel about that little showdown they had?
That showdown's quite interesting because it presents you, the viewer, with one final thing, whether to believe or not. Because I know you guys were talking about. Sorry, I had to dip out for a moment.
No worries, man.
But you were talking about the praying side of it. Then yeah, there is that sort of cringe moment where she talks about the empirical studies that show praying doesn't work. And when I was watching it, I did think to myself like, yeah, you're like devout Mormon who's like spent their entire life inside the institution. Like you think that you wouldn't be exposed to that kind of thing, although she was talking about pornography at the beginning. So it's possible, but whether she take that into account or not is I suppose up for debate. But you know, she's there praying. Obviously she's been stabbed in the stomach, Mr. Reed in the neck, and he's sort of crawling up, I suppose, to try and finish her off, I guess. And then, yeah, Barnes comes through with the plank. Chekhov's gun has been fired now, and that the nails falls over dead. But it's Barnes's movements. It's revealed that it's Barnes. She wasn't dead, or was she? But if you look at her, look at the way she's moving. It almost feels like it almost looks like she's being puppeteered by something. Like, is what we've seen a miracle? Is there an explanation behind it? And then yeah, when she eventually gets out of the house, you see she's got a butterfly on her fingers, and she says earlier on in the film that, you know, if she died, she'd like to come back as a butterfly so that she could be with the people that she loves in life, her friends, family. She wouldn't haunt them, but she'd be a little butterfly, and she'd sit on their fingers to let them know that it's me. And you know, again, it's symbolic. Again, is this a reincarnation of Barnes, perhaps, or is a sign from Barnes saying that she's okay, or is it just a butterfly, or is it just a hallucination? Because the next moment, it's gone.
It's gone. Yeah. And then it fades to black with her just kneeling there, sort of keeled over.
Yeah.
You don't know if she's alive or dead.
Yeah, and I think, again, you know, sort of talking, we sort of mentioned it before in other parts of the film. But yeah, I feel like that ending is as open to interpretation as can be. I don't think it's trying to say anything specific. It's presenting you with a series of events, and it's saying you, the viewer, need to determine, what do you believe happened.
Yeah, it's a couple of payoffs to the setups. You know, we saw that Chekhov's nailed plank.
Yeah,
we were waiting for that to come in.
Oh,
we had
of course.
the magic underwear thing had been set up as well. It's
the fake out with the knife was nice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's nicely done, and it's a good payoff to the conflict, and whilst leaving it, as you say, open to interpretation. I think I did find the line about the butterfly a bit clunky the first time. On the second watch, I noticed, okay, it's more about breaking the ice. Oh, by the way, when she gets stabbed, I noticed the overhead shot was almost identical to Fear Street Part 1.
Okay.
On Netflix from, I want to say 2021. I could be wrong, but almost identical to it. It was a nice shot. Nice to see that again. Yeah, it's very. I think the implication is that she's the only one seeing the butterfly, but it's the definite sign to her. And yeah, I wouldn't have expected something like this. It was nice. It was nice. Open-ended, but nicely done.
Yeah.
I'll throw this out to you guys. Did you feel that after the defeat of Mr. Reed, Do you think a load of stuff was cut out? Just because I kind of got the feeling that the film sort of realized it was over and just decided to hurry past a few bits. Like the idea she finds, I don't know, like a key in the model of the house to help her escape, just felt like it came a bit out of nowhere.
Right.
I did wonder how she was going to get out, so I just
I
wondered what she was doing.
Yeah.
The dollhouse, figuring out it was a Chinese puzzle box. How she figured that out was kind of, some of her explanations, and that made me think girl boss, and then it's like, no, it's not a true girl boss moment. It's, yeah, I think they did cut a scene out where how she figured it out.
Yeah.
Whether they were watching him through the bottom of the door and him manipulating the dollhouse or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I got the feeling like there was probably a scene or two of her scrabbling around, bleeding, wondering how do I get out? How do I get out? And then finally exploring the dollhouse out of desperation. And they probably realize, hang on, no one wants to see that. Hang on. I just noticed Animals Horror, thank you for $5. Cheers. Ashton Kutcher Butterfly Effect movie. I have a massive soft spot for that. I know people rag on it, but I really enjoy it. And was it Foggy from Daredevil being in it as well as a bit of a hoot?
Oh,
so
wow.
I've got a massive soft spot for the Butterfly Effect. It is great fun. Topher Grace in this movie, Illuminati confirmed. Was he doing the hands? Yeah. You've definitely tithed to this channel.
100%. Thank you so much.
I mean, honestly, I think after this stream, you should get another request. So, message me if there's a movie you'd like me to cover. I think I owe you one after this. Also for helping Murgoot out. So yes, drop me a request and we'll see if we can cover one for you. Thank you for all the comments tonight. And Murgoot renewing membership. Shows. You love to see it.
Yeah, for some reason I didn't realize that I hadn't renewed my membership last month. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, I will cheesily just say that anyone watching either here or on the replay, you're very welcome to join as a member of Proper Horror Show, either here on YouTube or on Subscribestar. Oh, I'm allergic to shilling. Oof, I'm itchy doing that. I think that was a good decision because it's a little garbled and she seems to just break out a window anyway. So it's all good. But it felt like they quite wisely cut some extra scenes about her being trapped in that really was no longer the core of the movie at that point, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very sensible, very sensible. So with that said, do you guys have anything else on Heretic? Or shall we move into closing thoughts and score? I noticed we're at 2 hours 12. So
Blimey. I
got into it, you know?
Yeah, big time. I'm quite happy to move on, really. I think this film was great. I actually really liked it. Not perfect, but some beautiful shots. I liked the sort of debating aspect of it. I'm sorry, Horrorshow, I will have to agree to disagree, but I thought the analogy of the three sort of holy scriptures and then comparing them with Monopoly boards, I liked it. I thought it was quite cool, quite quirky, and it reminded me of that older board game that existed before Monopoly came out as well, which was quite a nice little nod. And just the theme and just the topic of iterations sort of crops up quite a bit in the film. You know, it's not afraid to sort of lean on that throughout. Hugh Grant for me though stole the show. I said this to you beforehand. I mean, you know, he was known as sort of like your rom-com star in the 90s and 2000s, and I remember when he stepped out of that in The Gentleman. which I think was it like 2008 or something, quite going back a little bit, where he played this sort of like crooked journalist. You know, it was something that was so out of the norm of what you would expect for him. It really took me by surprise, and he smashed it in that film. And so this film, he demonstrated that he definitely has that acting range. And we talk about some people with their opinions and whatnot. Yeah, he is one of those who can be a little bit annoying with his own personal views, shall we say? But you can't fault the performance that he displayed in this film. I thought he was cracking. Yeah, I would highly recommend this film. I'd probably give it, in terms of the burger ratings, I'm going to score it high. I think it was a 10 out of 12 burgers. But I think instead of a burger, I'm going to stick a nice blueberry pie in between two buns.
Is that what I can smell?
Yeah. Yeah,
Lovely,
my wife's just
yeah.
taking it now. I'll go and talk to her.
Oh, cheers.
See if she'll just give you a slice.
Well, that's really good. That's 2 10s in a row, TCG.
Boom.
We're on a winner here. Yeah, cool. Anyone else get your scores in if you saw it? It's all welcome. And we do the out of 12 burger system if you're new. Murgoot, would you like to give your scores and final thoughts, please?
Sure. Good sympathetic movie. I really did like Hugh Grant's acting in this. He was nice and creepy. He did chew the scenery a bit, but otherwise it was well done. I liked the sets, especially the 2 libraries. The cinematography was wonderful. I loved the setup of the house. Like I was saying, the first hour kind of bored me, but that was just me. It was kind of been there, done that, heard all these arguments. The iterations part and how it carried through the movie was very good. The end part was fairly weak. I was expecting more in the way of, they could have done more with the basement instead of talking all the time. And just the multiple women in cages was just a bit over the top for me. It did make its point, but they could have done without that. They could have done 2 or 3 women, or 1 woman in an empty cage. Overall, I'd give it 7 burgers, hint of ketchup. And I also have to say I really like Topher Grace in his small role, because that was very respectful. So I'll add an extra burger for that. 8 burgers, a little bit of ketchup.
Coming out on a moving away from a cautious recommendation to a decent recommendation there, I think, with 8. That's how I read 8 anyway. Chat, mostly on the positive side. We have got a couple of people not happy with it, and John Graham's reference to long legs does strike my attention. I was really looking forward to long legs, and now a few people have said don't go near it, so I'm apprehensive. Really great cinematography in this, some really clever shots, really lovely touches. So you see that Dante's Inferno map, and then you find out that the hell he keeps them in is cold. Nice extra reference to the Inferno there, where the bottom layer of hell is actually frozen over. Nice stuff, and then a great camera angle after it. So this film looks great. It's really well performed. I didn't find the pacing an issue at all. You know, I've seen it twice now. I told wifey this is really good and we should watch it. So I will happily watch it a third time. It's really entertaining. And clearly knew when to cut to keep things short. I almost wonder if we probably lost a little bit more of the Topher Grace character. But it seems like a good decision to me, to be honest. Kept the film moving along very nicely. The only thing I am tending to take away from it is, TCG, we're not aligned on that one, but that's fine. I don't want clone opinions. I want a nice bit of heresy and dissent on this channel.
Happy to help.
Yeah, that it could possibly be just the fact that when it's an area of debate you've been over and over and over again, you want something fresh. And just for me, it wasn't fresh. And I'd just seen the points and I wanted something that moved it on, ideally to the kind of conversations that we're having now about religion. You know, a film that explored the, that sort of the IQ bell curve meme about religion. Something like that I would have preferred that rather than just something I'd kind of heard already, because the main thrust of the film isn't that stuff. So to see Reddit tier stuff in the middle, it's quite replaceable. Anyway, that's the only thing really holding it back for me. I enjoyed this a lot. I can't watch it 3 times and not rate it quite highly. So it's going to be a 9 from me. 9 burgers, decent amount of ketchup, but you're not coming for the ketchup, you know. No pickles whatsoever. But yeah, very interesting. Yeah, 9 burgers. I'm settling on 9. There we go. And more comment on long legs. I'm apprehensive, guys. We do need to look at it because it's Oz Perkins, but anyway, folks, I think that is pretty much everything for tonight. We have covered Heretic. Overall, pretty darn positive. And oh, hello. Yes, thank you. The Enriab, thank you so much. Yes, sending £10, very welcome, saying thanks for the review. Also, shill the membership. Lots of great content on there. Yes, I do try and make. Let's do the membership shill again. If you haven't heard it, basically, I like the membership because I can reward you with some extra content. You'll also be able to vote on the topics covered, and I also do a request for members. So you join as a member, and then you can request a film for me to cover. If we haven't done it already, you know, I can direct you to it, and you know, we'll even sometimes do Plan 9 from outer space when it's requested, eh, Mr. GB? Yeah. Anyway, memberships highly recommended. Please do go for that if you want to support the channel. They're really appreciated. I think I'm repeating myself because I'm a bit tired. Sorry. All right. Thank you, the Enriab. Very generous of you. And go memberships. All right. Now, I do need to give you a homework. The homework is a tad tricky. I don't know if I'm available next week. So I don't think there will be a stream next week. If that changes, I will give you an update on Twitter or on community posts here, or you'll just see the stream set up. But I don't think I'm available next week. However, the week after, which is going to be the 30th of January, we are returning for another round of Only Correct, a full quiz stream. It will be high quality. No, it's really good fun doing them. I love doing the quiz streams and hearing people rage out. It's fantastic. It should be Murgoot and Shrouded reteaming to take on the winners from the second quiz, TCG and Harrion. So the 2 champions are getting to go at it. That will be excellent. That's going to be on the 30th. So and I will also announce then what the new arc is, but I need to get members to vote on it first. So members, get ready to vote on the next arc. So I think that is everything, folks. Really enjoyed this stream. Thank you, TCG and Murgoot.
You're welcome.
Very
Thank you for having me.
Welcome. Yep. Thank you very much. And thank you, chat. You've been amazing this evening, as always.
Yeah, really good stuff, chat. I saw there was a really good conversation going on there, and just I couldn't follow it all. I had to I couldn't read all the comments because I'd lose track of the conversation. But yeah, really, it looked like there was some interesting exchanges going on there. All right, folks. I hope you've had fun tonight. I hope you enjoyed Heretic if you watched it, or we've maybe made you curious to give it a go. And I hope I will see you certainly for the only correct quiz, maybe next week if I end up being available, but that's not certain. Anyway, hope you've got a lovely Friday ahead of you and a nice weekend after that. Thanks, y'all. Cheers.
#ShowGang.
There it is.